So today we'll be doing May-June 2002 past paper. So as usual, the multiple choice is and has always been 75 minutes, an hour and a quarter. And my advice would usually be to see if you can finish your past paper within an hour's time. So if you, let's say you bounce up a question that you're not too sure about, you put a little asterisk by it. Or if there are two answers that you can't decipher between at that very moment and you know you're killing time on that, then just put a little asterisk or a tick or some sort of mark by the two answers that you think are correct and you have the time to come back to it, right? So if you finish within that 1 hour time, by the hour, or maybe a bit before the hour, you have all that extra time to comfortably go back through the paper to change anything that you weren't sure about or to answer any questions that you probably left out. So today the answers would already be on the paper, but we'll just go through it. Some of them that are a bit straightforward, we just say what the answer is, but others I may need a little explanation. I'll explain along the way. So question one. The relationship between which of the following pairs of organisms provides an example of mutualism? The answer would be D. The cattle and the egret. Both of them are benefiting from the relationship. Two. Which of the following is the correct sequence of feeding relationships in a food chain? The food chain always begins with the plant, which is the producer, then it goes on to the primary consumer, secondary consumer, and the tertiary consumer. The primary consumer is always your herbivore. Then after that, you have your carnivore, and then you have your top carnivore. Some cases it may be an omnivore, but that's the order it always goes in: producer, herbivore, carnivore, and top carnivore. So the answer would be B. Item 3 refers to the following diagram. So we have this very simple food web here, and they're asking us which of them is the omnivore. Now, an omnivore is an organism that eats both plants and animals. So if we were to follow through with the choices that were given to us, we would see that the dove eats both the grass as well as animals here, which are primary consumers, so the slugs and the aphids. So the answer would be A. 4. If all the trees in a large area of forest were wiped out by disease, what would be the most likely effect on the composition of the air in the long term? So, in the long term, based on the answers that are given to us, they are asking about carbon dioxide, not the answers, sorry, the options, but they're asking us about carbon dioxide. We know that through the process of photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide. So if a lot of the plants aren't there, then in the long run, the answer would be B. The level of carbon dioxide would increase because of the absence of photosynthesis. 5. Which of the following statements is about a food? Sorry. Which of the following statements about a food chain is true? The answer is A. Energy from the sun is transferred from one organism to subsequent organisms. And this is because the plant takes in the energy from the sun to help make the glucose, and then it's that energy that is transferred to the other organisms. 6. Which of the following is not true about decomposers? The answer would be D. They are favored by low temperatures. 7. In which of the following parts of the alimentary canal is starch mainly digested? And mainly being the highlighted word there. We know that starch begins digestion in the mouth with the salivary amylase breaking down starch into maltose. But based on the answers that we are given, only B is paired with 1. And what it is paired with, which is 2, with the stomach, we know that starch isn't digested there. So the answer would have to be A, which is the small intestines. 8. After walking 1 mile in warm weather, and then going into an air conditioned room for half an hour, which of the following changes would take place in the skin? The answer would be C, vasoconstriction, and you'll have no sweating to maintain body temperature or to not lose too much heat. 9. Bile empties in the duodenum. The answer is A. 10. Seeds from the same pod were planted under the same conditions, and plants which grew from them appeared to be very similar. So, what is the most likely explanation for this occurrence? The answer would be D. The plants, may have been self-pollinated. Item 11 and 12 refers to the following diagram of the human female reproductive system with structures labeled A to D. We should know by now, with exam around the corner, we should know all of the parts that are necessary for us to know with the human reproductive systems, both male and female. So when you are answering the items, which is 11 and 12, a particular choice from the above may be made um, more than once, or not at all. So 11, where does development of the ovum occur? We know this happens in the ovaries, which is A. And 12, where is fertilization most likely to occur? We know that fertilization has to occur for it to be successful in B, which is the oviduct or the fallopian tube. 13. West Indian cherries, which is a fruit, are rich in vitamin C. Which of the following best describes the benefit or benefits a boy derives from consuming these cherries every day? The answer would be D. So he gets the increase in absorption of iron, prevention of bleeding gums and joints, and also an increase in the absorption of calcium. 14. Which of the following parts of the urinary tube is not closely associated with a rich supply of blood vessels? The answer would be D, the collecting tubule. 15. An individual wears glasses or spectacles with convex lenses because C, images fall behind the retina. So remember the convex lenses. Let me see if I could draw a little something here. So the convex lenses we know are these that are shaped like the lens, right? So when someone wears this, or what they use this for, is to bring the image or bring light rays together. So the light rays coming from near objects, we know, come in at very spread out or divergent angles. When it comes into this lens now, what it's going to do, it's going to help bring it closer so that the lens doesn't have as much work to do, or maybe it's because the eyeball is too short from back to front, therefore the light rays end up focusing behind the retina. So by using these lenses, which is a convex lens, this is going to help the light rays refract enough or just in time for it to end up on the retina itself and not behind the retina. 16. Plant cells differ from animal cells in their ability to C, resist sugar pressure due to the help of the cell walls. 17. Which of the following is not normally a function of leaf epidermal cells? C. Photosynthesis. 18. Which of the following fruits is likely to be dispersed by animals? So you look at the pictures and you would know that C would be the answer. Item 19 refers to the following apparatus used in an investigation. So you have the whole setup with the thermometer, the dry cotton wall plug, metal container, soaked red beans, and damp cotton wool. The initial temperature of the beans was noted, and readings were taken at regular intervals twice daily for 4 days. The graph obtained were used to plot, sorry, the data obtained were used to plot the graph below. So we have on the y-axis time, the temperature, and on the x-axis we have the time in hours and the points, the data points that were plotted. So the question is, the increase in temperature in the vessel is best explained by the fact that the seeds are D, using their food stores. 20. Which of the following is not excreted by mammals? C. Calcium oxalate. 21. Which of the following is not carried out by the liver? The answer is A. The storage of calcium. For items 22 to 23, refer to the following diagram of a thoracic vertebrate. So 22, the structures which serve largely for muscle attachment are A, 1 and 2. And question 23, the nervous tissue is found through the middle here, which is 3. That answer is C. 24. Which of the following triggers the formation of blood clots? So even if we weren't sure about this answer or what thrombocytes were, we could do this by the method of elimination. We know phagocytes and lymphocytes are our white blood cells, and this has to do with the immune response. The lymphocytes creating the antibodies, the phagocytes doing the engulfing, which is that process of phagocytosis. Erythrocytes is the next name for red blood cells. We know the red blood cells don't have anything to do with that. So, by the method of elimination, we could have figured out that A, thrombocytes, is the answer. 25. The following diagram shows the parts of a flower. So, in which labeled part are gametes produced? The answer is B. A, yes, it's pointing, A and C both pointing to female parts or parts of the female reproductive system of the plant. But if we look at D, D is pointing not to this area, but it's actually pointing to the filament, which is also part of the male reproductive system. A, C, D has nothing to do with the formation of gametes. So gametes are produced in the anthers here. This is where the pollen is. So the answer is B. 26. We have this graph here showing us the changes in dry weight in pea seedlings during germination. So in the above graph, which of the following is likely to have contributed most to the decrease in dry weight between stages 1 and 2? So the first two stages here. The answer would be respiration. 27. Insulin, which is a protein, is never taken orally because it A is broken down by pepsin. So we know proteins, we have protein digestion in the stomach by the enzyme pepsin, and we also have that very acidic environment. So again, even if we weren't sure by the method of elimination, we could figure out that these others didn't really make sense, and the answer would be A. And just by that hint they gave you, a protein. Pepsin breaks down proteins. 28. The following statements were made to show the leaves are well adapted for photosynthesis. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they are asking us which of the following are true. The answer is D, all of them. So the fact that the leaves are broad and flat and offer a large surface area for absorption of sunlight and carbon dioxide, that's true. There are many pores on the lower surface of the leaf to permit rapid exchange of gases. That's also true, and one of the reasons why it's really good in terms of diffusion. There is branching networks of veins to provide a ready supply of water, and there are often more chloroplasts in the upper cells of the leaf than the lower cells, which receive less sunlight. All of these are facts as to why the leaf is so well adapted for its purpose of photosynthesis. 29. Plants need calcium. Plants need magnesium for the formation of B, chloroplasts, right? The answer isn't exactly chloroplast. The answer is chlorophyll because it forms the middle of the head group of the chlorophyll molecule. But the closest answer here would be chloroplast. So the answer would be B. 30. In the pancreas, if the pancreas were damaged, which of the following activities would be affected? C. The digestion of proteins. 31. When a seedling loses water to the atmosphere faster than it can be obtained from the soil, the turgor pressure A decreases and the seedling wilts. 32. Which of the following processes that occur in mammals ensures that digested food is made available to the body tissues? The answer is C, diffusion. So we know when the food is broken down into its simplest units, it is then um, it then diffuses from the lumen of the gut, which is space, into the bloodstream, right, across the villi, which is the finger-like projections. We have 33. The following table shows the results recorded after 20 minutes of tests done with cobalt chloride paper on 2 leaves from different plants. From the results, one may conclude that B, leaf Y, has a faster rate of transpiration than leaf X. So this paper is used when testing moisture levels, and in this case, the moisture levels of the leaf. So this has to do with the rate of transpiration we're looking at here. 34. Which of the following best accounts for the fact that own what madness? Do I need my glasses? Which of the following best account for the fact that one usually gets tired during heavy exercise? The answer is D, which is 2 and 4. So 2 is stating that oxygen cannot reach the muscle mitochondria fast enough. And we know this respiration, we get energy from that. And 4, the level of lactic acid in the blood is increasing. So we know when our muscle cells switch into anaerobic respiration mode due to lack of oxygen, lactic acid is produced. 35. In the diagram above, the stem at Q is turned upward because A. Auxin accumulated on the lower side of the shoot. So once we have the auxin accumulated on the lower side, that is the hormone that indicates or that allows plant growth to occur, and it's going to move or grow the plant in the direction of the sunlight. Item 36 refers to the following diagram of plant cells after they were left in sugar solution of varying concentrations for 20 minutes. So 36, which of the following arrangements of cells indicate the concentration of the solution in ascending order, meaning from the weakest to the most concentrated? The answer would be C. So 3 would be the weakest or would be in the weakest concentration of the sugar solution because we don't have much water leaving from the cell. You're not seeing much evidence of that. So, for all we know, that may be somewhat of an isotonic solution where what is coming in is the same amount that is leaving. The next would be 4. So, we're now starting to see if you look at the corners, then 2 and 1 is the most evident. So this would be in the most concentrated solution where we have a lot of water leaving from inside of the cell to go outside into the concentrated area. 37. The presence of a long corolla tube is an indication that the flower is pollinated by D, an organism with a long mouthpart. So maybe like a hummingbird. The corolla tube, this is the petals here. So that's like, some flowers you notice they have that very, very long tube, right? Normal bees wouldn't really take time to go quite down here to get the nectarines at the bottom. So if we have a hummingbird, this is the weirdest bird that you will ever see, right? But don't even look like a bird at this point. But just let's say, right? That is the bird. I probably have better luck drawing this. But anyway, we have the beak would be able to come all the way down here to get to the nectarines. What horrible bird out here. Then 38. Which of the following are necessary for germination to take place? We know for germination to take place, we do not need sunlight. This has nothing to do with it. The plants have no leaf to photosynthesize, no leaves to photosynthesize at that point. So anything with 3 is wrong. So we don't need, we already know B and D, we could eliminate that. A is saying that we only need 1 and 2, but remember, we also need the moisture to help with the mobilization or the activation of the enzymes as well as the mobilization of the food stores to the growing areas and also to loosen up that outer skin there. So the answer would be 1, 2, and 4, which is C. Items 39 to 40 refers to the following diagram of a reflex arc. So we have 39, they're asking us which part responds or which labeled part responds to the nervous impulse. So we have A, B, C, and D. The first thing we want to do is identify what is each. So D is the muscle here or the effector. That would mean that C is our motor neuron. So I'll just put the first letters here. So effector, we have the motor neuron. Um, B would be, well, A would be our sensory cells. So I'll put CS, sorry, SC. And B, we know, is our sensory neuron. And even though this one isn't labeled here, we know this is our relay or intermediate neuron, right? So the part that responds to the nervous impulse is D, because that's the muscle or the gland that is going to respond or do whatever action is necessary. And 40, which of the parts is where you have the activation or uh, which of the parts labeled is activated by a stimulus? The answer is A, which is our sensory cells. So that is what gets activated and sends on the message or starts up this whole chain reaction here. 41. The following are changes which takes place in the thorax during ventilation of the lungs. So which two of these changes occur during inspiration when we're breathing in? So when we're breathing in, we have to get the air to come in. That means that the pressure has to decrease and the volume has to increase for us to take in that gulp of air. So the answer is B. 42. Structures that carry the code for the same genetic characteristics, example eye color, are called A alleles. 43. For children born to same parents have blood groups A, B, AB, and O. So you have one of everything. Which of the following represents the genotypes of the parents? So for us to get one of everything, the answer has to be A. The parents has to be heterozygous for A and B, meaning they have to have AO and BO. Because when we cross it, we have AO and BO. I'll just do it the short way. But A times B will give you AB, A times O will give you AO, O times B will give you BO, and O times O will give you O. So from that, we'll get one of each. That's how we get A, B, AB, and O. 44. Which of the following is not a method of natural selection? The answer is D, grafting. 45. A female carrying the trait for color blindness marries a normal male. What are the chances of her producing a normal female child without this trait? So, without this trait means that she obviously doesn't have the disease and she also is not a carrier. Now, you have to remember that out of all the diseases that you would have learned, this is the simplest one to remember, that it's sex linked, right? So for this one, we have to use the XX and we have to use times the XY. So if we give, let's say, mm, big B, or we could use C, whichever letter you want. So if you use big B as not having the trait, small b, which is recessive. So if I have this, whether homozygous recessive or as a male just have one, then I have this disease. We'll have to put the big B here, small b, because she's a carrier. And the male is normal, so he's just big B. So again, I'll do this short way. So we're just looking for females, right? So we have big B, big B. So that's already one child or one female that doesn't have the trait. Then we'll have this here, which will be a boy without the disease. This would be a normal boy. Then we have this one, which would give us a female who's a carrier, and this last one will give us a boy who has the disease, which is he is colorblind. So if we have four chances and we only get this one, then as a percentage, that is going to be 25%, which is A. 46. Offspring which are not identical to the parents are produced by D, sexual reproduction. That's a given. 47. As a result of mitosis, each daughter cell has D, the same number of chromosomes as the parent. We're creating clones via the process of mitosis. 48. In which of the following does meiosis occur? C, the testes of mammals, where we have sperm being produced. 49. Through which of the following can natural immunity be obtained? B, 2 and 3. So from breast milk, even though it's passive, it is still passive natural immunity, and the placenta, right? So vaccines, this is artificial, and we know no, there's a no for this blood transfusion here. Then item 50 to 51 refers to the following options, which are four patterns of genetic inheritance. So you have all of that to look through. And then we have these here. So 50, which pattern demonstrates incomplete dominance, and 51, which produces a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio of phenotype. Remember, incomplete dominance, this is where there's no dominance and recessive here. If we get a heterozygous, then we get something different. So the typical example is flower color. You have a red flower and you have a white. When you get red and white, or big R, small r, or whatever you want to use coming together, once you have a heterozygous something, this is going to give you pink. So in that case, the answer is D, because we're seeing as homozygous dominant, we get red. Homozygous recessive, we get white. But heterozygous, we get a totally different color, which is pink, a combination of red and white. So that's incomplete dominance there. And which produces a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. Now, the biggest hint or a shortcut into knowing what to get is by knowing what type of parents, or if we have two dominant parent, well, we have two homozygous parents or two heterozygous parents, what we'll get. If we have two homozygous parents as in A, then all we can get is 100% heterozygous here. So two homozygous parents could only give heterozygous offsprings, right? The same thing for here. So it should be an X. This is not that. Then this is not that either, right? Now, the 1 to 2 to 1 ratio comes from two heterozygous parents. So once you see anything where they're talking about they have two heterozygous parents, then you are going to get, or there's a chance of getting everything. So you will get things that portray the dominant trait, things that are homozygous, and you get something that is also recessive, right? Or homozygous recessive. So if we were to do it here by just crossing it at the bottom, you'll see we'll get bigger, bigger, then we get bigger, smaller, then a next bigger, smaller, and then small r, small r. So what we're going to get is one homozygous dominant, two heterozygous, and one homozygous recessive. So D again is going to give us that 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. So always remember, two homozygous parents can only give heterozygous offspring, whereas two heterozygous parents will give us, we'll see everything there. So we'll get one homozygous recessive, one homozygous dominant, and two heterozygous. That will give you the 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. And 52, an organism which causes a disease is called a pathogen. Items 53 to 54 refers to the following diagram of a Tallgren funnel, which is used to collect small soil animals. So we have the whole setup with the light bulb, the funnel, we have the soil sample here with the microorganisms, or not the microorganisms, but the soil animals in it, and the funnel leading into a beaker filled with alcohol. The alcohol is there to kill the organisms, right? Now, what's the purpose of the light bulb? The answer is C. It drives the animals to the base of the funnel, as this creates that, sensitivity there, that they are going to move away from the light and crawl towards or deeper down into the soil. But little do they know that there's no more soil here. It's straight into a funnel to their death. Harsh, but that's the experiment. Um, 54. Which of the following explains why the apparatus works well? The answer is C. So 1, 2, and 3. So 1, the soil organisms show a positive response to gravity. So they move, gravity is pushing downwards. 2, the soil organisms show negative response to light, so they'll move away from the light, which is also downwards. And 3, the soil organisms are killed by the alcohol, which is what they are going to fall into. Now, the soil organisms move away from dry areas. Yes, they like moisture, but this experiment doesn't have to do anything with moisture. They didn't tell us anything about that when it comes to moisture of the soil. That's not what we're testing here. So item 55 relates the following graphs, which show the growth pattern of several populations. The question is, which of the populations above have a good food supply and is subject to little environmental stress? So when we're looking at a growth curve, we know we have different phases. We have the lag or the exponential phase, the stationary phase, and the death phase, right? We have the answer being B. B is in a continuous exponential phase here. It hasn't come to that point where it's stationary. So this is telling me that the population is still expanding. And when the population is expanding, that means that they have enough food, whether they have a lot of food or just enough to support this expansion. They are not threatened by anything in the environment, meaning no predators or diseases or even like their own mess, meaning their own feces or excretion, making any problems there for them. And also, the birth rate is much higher than the death rate. Item 56 refers to the following methods of disease treatment or control. So these methods are used in the treatment or control of a disease that B is infectious. So let me read it. 1. Improved personal hygiene. 2. Isolation of persons with the disease. 3. Good sanitary practices, example, proper garbage disposal. And 4. Careful food preparation. So all of these would be methods of treatment or control for B, infectious diseases. 57. So the table shows the results of analyzing a soil sample. So you looked at the composition of the soil, meaning what type of soil, whether it's clay, sand, or humus, however you prefer to pronounce it, the percentage of that makes up that soil, and also the pH of the soil. So the farmer from whose field the samples were taken would best be advised to see, which is to grow plants which prefer well drained soil. The reason why is because of the percentage of sand in the soil, right? There's not much water is going to be held there. 58. Which of the following is not a cause of soil erosion? A. Contour plowing. 59. What would be the best method of investigating the range of organisms found between the low tide mark and the high tide mark of on a sloping rocky seashore? So if you remember, um, way back in what would that be? That would be section A, right, where you spoke about the different methods of sample collection. We would know that the answer would be A, the line transect would be the best. And finally, the last one, 60. Two soil components that are derived from the parent rock material are C, sand as well as mineral salts. So that brings us to the end of this 2002 May June multiple choice biology past paper. If you have any questions or if anything isn't clear or you think any of my answers might probably be wrong, you can let me know in the comments and we could discuss it there because we're humans. I may have made a mistake or you may have something confused and I could help you loosen out that nut there. So thanks again for staying if you did for the entire video, and make sure and like, share, subscribe. We have a lot more coming very, very soon. Bye.